Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well, and yes, today, girl, we are going to be doing a neon city inspired by somewhat of Tokyo, and obviously what is new? I do this all the time, and I even showed my boyfriend. I was like, look what I'm building, and he goes, so a neon city? And I go, yeah, but it's like Tokyo inspired. And he goes, again? And I go, you know what? You can just shh. You can just shh. It's like Little Simsy with blue Suburbans. But I will try my best not to do it all the time. I think I've only made like 3 throughout my entire YouTube, career, even though it's not really a career, but what I'm saying. So this is gonna be part 1 because this is taking me way too long to build. So this is gonna be part 1, and then part 2 will probably go up on Sunday if I can, or probably Monday. I'm gonna be at my mom's, so I'm not too sure if I will have the time, just because your girl has to go to work right after this, so I don't know if I'll have time to have it up for Sunday. So you'll probably catch it on Monday. But how are you guys doing? How have you been? If you guys have been experiencing the fires that have been going on in Canada right now, or even if you guys are near kind of the border and you can see the smoke, make sure to stay safe, wear your masks, all that fun jazz, just because it's not nice outside. It smells like a bonfire every single time. Luckily down where my dad lives, it's not as close, so it's not too bad. But when I go into work, it's a little bit closer to that area, so it is a bit smoggy, a little bit smoky outside. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little gross. Sometimes you can even see ash falling from the sky. It's really creepy. It definitely gives me apocalypse vibes. I did see pictures of New York, and I'm like, oh my god, it is orange. That is terrifying. So I hope all of you are staying safe, and yeah, girl, there's been so much going on this week. I am trying to work out at the gym now. Trying to go there maybe 3 or 4 times a week as much as I can. I have a friend, a coworker, and she has been getting me into it because for a long time I've been wanting to go, because I used to be a martial arts instructor, so I used to be working out all the time, and I was in good shape, and ever since COVID happened, I haven't really been able to go. So I've just been cleared from my doctor to go back and go to karate, because I've had 5 concussions. Yeah, it's crazy. But I've had them. She was like, you know what? I can't tell you whether or not you can or can't go back, but you gotta be safe. And she's like, if they've been pretty spread out, then you should be okay. But just sit back, take your time, and assess the situation. If it's too bad and you feel like you're gonna get hurt, then don't continue doing that day. And I was like, okay, cool. So what you're saying is I can go back. So hopefully I can soon, and I do have to call my doctor back because I may or may not have to get surgery on my wrist, and hopefully that will be a thing because I really need it. But yeah, there's been a bunch of things going on. We have a new ASM, and girl, I have a story for y'all. And I always do stories. If none of you guys are, if some of you guys are new, hi, how are you? My name is Jamie. I'm also known here on Simspiration here on YouTube. And the majority of my speed builds, I like to talk about stories about kind of what's going on in my life, or, people at my work, or things that have just happened in my lifetime. And sometimes they can get pretty hectic and pretty chaotic. So I want to tell you guys about this story, okay? So we have this new ASM, which is an assistant manager. Let's call her Kate. Okay, so let's just name her Kate. So Kate is brand new. She's been here for a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and she is already on my bad side. Already. First day comes in, I come into the back and she's there, and they're like, oh, this is Kate, Nate, this is gonna be your new ASM. And I was like, oh, hi, how are ya? And she was like, oh, good, blah, 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 blah. First off, I hate to say it, you guys, she's just she gets on my nerves like right off the bat. And I don't want to explain why, but she just does, okay? So she was like, "Hi, like how are you?" And I'm like, "Good, good, good, good." So I turn around and I put like all my stuff in the back, and I'm like looking around for my apron, and there's a couple there, and I couldn't find mine. And usually I can always indicate like what one's mine, because one, I have my name tag on it, and two, I have like two Kirby squishy stress balls in the pocket. And you're like, what? Yeah, they're like little squishy like Kirby things, and you can buy them at the store for like, I don't know, like $6 or like $5. I don't know, they're not expensive. But my old manager, he like bought them for me because sometimes like I don't stress out. When I stress out, it's very quiet. Like I'm very quiet, and I don't like sharing that I'm stressed. So I kind of just like fidget with my hands, and a lot of the times I have like a problem with pulling out like my eyebrows and eyelashes and stuff like that. But I've had that since like grade 3, so we don't have to worry about it. But so he got me these like two Kirby balls, so I just have them in my pocket. So I usually just kind of squish around to find them, and I couldn't, and I was like, what the heck? So I turn around, and Kate comes in, and I see her wearing my apron, and I was like, oh, you're wearing my apron. And she was like, oh, okay. And she just like continues on with what she's doing. I was like, I'm like, excuse me, please give me back my apron. I'm like, obviously I didn't say that, but I was like, oh, is it okay if I like put my apron on? And she was like, oh yeah, yeah, sure, just give me 1 sec. And I go, okay. So eventually she takes it off, and she gives it to me. Obviously she's new, she doesn't know, but in my head that already kind of gave me like an annoying introduction, you know what I'm saying? Because they always say first introductions always count, like the first like 5-10 seconds. I already didn't really like care for her too much, because I don't know, like when I said that it was my apron, and you're like, oh, and you just kept doing what you were doing, I'm like, no, that's my apron, give it to me, please. So that was the first thing. That was like my first kind of like red flag. And I've noticed that over my time like of living, I've always had like a pretty okay, like, you know, like I've always been pretty good with like judging character. And obviously I never judge anyone before I meet them, but I did get that vibe. You know what I'm talking about? You know when you meet someone and you're like, girl, I don't know. That was that. Okay. So following day, I'm like working with her on the floor, and I noticed that when she's looking at her till, you can see the numbers, and you can see how well you're doing when it comes to like transactions, when it comes to like units, like how many units you're selling. Usually the company wants you to sell like 3 units or more. So the UPT is what's going to be units per transaction. So if you hear me say UPT, I'm literally just meaning the units that she sells, like how many products she's selling to, you know, every customer, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so every time that we are like selling to people and we're talking, whatever, she always checks her numbers right after. And I'm like, oh, what you doing? She's like, oh, you know, I'm just checking to see like how well I'm doing and all this stuff, which is normal, right? Like when you're new, you want to see like how well you're doing. I'm like, okay, whatever. I say, okay, cool. So the next day I go to my boyfriend's house, and I get like a Snapchat from my friend who I work with, and she was like, girl, I have a story for you. You will not believe it. I'm like, what? What's going on? So she says that Kate was always like obsessing over her numbers, and she's looking at all of her stuff, yada, yada, yada. And so she goes over, my friend, she goes over and she goes, hey, Kate, what are you doing? And she says, oh, you know, I'm just like looking at my numbers, see how I'm doing. And she goes, oh, okay, cool. She goes, but you don't have to like worry about them too much. Like it's, you know, just do your job. And she goes, yeah, no, I get it. But like, I want to be really good, and I want to beat everyone, and I want to do the best that I can, and I want to overachieve. I'm like an overachiever, you know? And so my friend goes, well, it's not really competition in our store. Like we work as a team. That's what we are. We're a team. And there's no competition between all of us. Like, that's not, that's not a fun way of working. And so she goes, yeah, no, but see here, like, you see how Jamie, that's me, Jamie here, she's, at the top over here. So I'm going to be better than her, so eventually I'm going to pass her, and eventually I'm going to pass you, and yada, 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 yada. And that's what she would, the yada, yada was just a bunch of different names. So then my friend goes, yeah, but you don't have to, like, worry about that. Just worry about yourself. And she goes, yeah, no, I don't really want to do that. But, like, thank you, though. She's like, I'm not really doing anything wrong. I just feel like we need some friendly competition. And my friend goes, well, no, you shouldn't, because we're working as a team. I understand, but, like, no. So she tells me this, and apparently, like, she was mentioning me a lot, and she was trying to kind of, compare her numbers to mine, and her stressing about, like, how well I'm doing, even though I've been there for almost a year. So you would think that, like, I should know what I'm doing. I don't care about numbers. I don't care about competition. The only thing and the only person I worry about is myself. I don't worry about how everyone else is doing. I just go in, do my job, and get out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want that to be my job. I don't care enough to, to worry about how everyone's doing. I know I'm doing well, so that's how I'm just gonna judge, how I'm doing as a coworker. And so when she told me this, I was just a little bit kind of confused and a little bit, like, upset, because I'm like, don't drag me into this. I don't want to know, like, that you're trying to compete with me, because that makes me annoyed, because now it's like I'm not wanting to look at my numbers and see how well I'm doing, but at the same time, so, like, psychologically and subconsciously, I'm now going to look at see how you're doing versus how I'm doing. And it's just like, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about it. But you can kind of see, like, where my frustration kind of sets in. And apparently, like, she was saying to my coworkers and putting them down and all this stuff, and comparing her to me, to them, like, all this stuff. And so I wasn't happy about that. So that was also my next red flag, because, don't worry about what I'm doing. Worry about what you're doing. So then after that, she was apparently stealing sales from people. She was getting really mad when people would just only want to buy one thing, because her UPT would only be one unit when they want you to have 3. So now she was obsessing about how much she was selling so that she could beat me in my sales. And she would try and steal other people's sales just so that her UPT could be better. And that is where I start to draw the line, because I'm like, girl, you can talk about me. You can kind of, whatever. I don't like it, but I don't care. But if you start coming after my friends and trying to steal their sales, that is not cool. So the next day I work with her, and she's asking me about, like, how customers kind of, like, work, the system that kind of works in our store. And I say, well, if someone walks in and you say, hi, how are you today? That is not your customer. You are just doing your job. You're being a human. You're greeting someone. You're not telling them about the products. You're not telling them about the history. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. So that technically is not your customer. You are just doing your job. So if I come in, so say if you say, hi, how are ya? And then I go over and I tell them, and they help. I help them, they ask about the products, and I'm with them for like 10-20 minutes. You can't cash them out because you didn't help them. I did. That's the only rule that we have in our store. And she goes, okay, that makes sense. And I was like, yeah. So in my head, I'm like, hopefully you remember that so that you don't steal other people's sales. And then we were looking at, like, the pictures, like the monitor and stuff. She's like, so if I need to, like, switch sales, because say if I'm, you were helping someone and I had to check them out because you were busy. And I said, oh, you just press this, like, change the cashier. And then she finds something else and she says, what about this link to sale, like cashier links to sale? And I said, yeah, don't worry about that one. That's an old one. This is the new one that you have to worry about. And then she goes, oh, so oh, what is this? And I go, oh, this is just everyone's like codes to link to their sales. So don't worry about that. You don't have to look at it. Don't worry about it. And she goes, oh, okay. And she just like kept looking at it for a really long time, like everyone's codes. And I'm like, don't look at it. Stop looking. It's okay. Like, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. So I don't know. I'm afraid that she's gonna start putting people's codes when, say, one person wants to buy 1 unit. But I don't know. I'm gonna take a picture of all my stats to make sure everything is the same, and then I will let you guys know if this girl will be doing any sort of fraudulent activity at work. I already talked to her manager about it, so hopefully it's okay. But yeah, sorry guys for rambling on. This video is done, but I hope you guys like this video. Will you please consider like, commenting, and subscribing? Part 2 will be out probably on Monday. And yeah, I will see you guys all later. Bye guys.